Hey look, it's the new Mk8 GTI. It's a little bit faster, it's a little bit more nimble, it's a little bit more comfortable, but it's also a little bit more frustrating. Should you buy one of these things? Today, let's find out, but first, I think we need a GTI montage. Volkswagen pretty much invented the idea of the hot hatch almost 50 years ago with the introduction of the original GTI. Many years later, many small continuous improvements later, the original formula mostly remains the same. Take a small car, make it lightweight, make it nimble, make it fun, make it practical. It's actually a car that kind of does everything well. It's a car that you can live with every day. But what I want to know is, does this new Mk8 live up to those GTI principles? I've heard some people say that this is the worst GTI ever created. I've heard some people say that this is the best GTI that Volkswagen has ever built. So which is it? Hopefully today we can figure that out. But first, I think we should talk about what's new here. Yes, there's some subtle changes to the exterior design, and there's some pretty major changes to the cabin, but we'll get to that in a second. I think the real news here are the refinements that have been made to the chassis and to the engine. And under the hood is a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbocharged motor making 241 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. And yes, that's quite a bit more than the outgoing model. That's a lot of power for this price point. And in terms of the chassis, what they've done here is they've tried to reduce understeer when you're driving this thing at the limit, which I'm really looking forward to testing out on a canyon road around here. And hopefully with those improvements, it won't send me careening off to the edge of a cliff. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. And yes, you can still get this vehicle with a 6-speed manual transmission, which is awesome. This car has the optional 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Now this is the top spec Autobahn trim with King's red paint and 19-inch wheels. The exterior design is really mostly a subtle evolutionary change from the Mark 7. If you didn't pay too much attention to GTIs, from the side you might not even know they're different. But that's actually a good thing. It's a crisp and mature look. That is until you get to the front. Here is where some bigger changes occurred with these hexagonal fog lights. But it's still pretty reserved. Once again, very clean. The back continues the clean trend. It looks great. The Volkswagen logo flips up for the rear view camera, which is pretty cool. Oh, and we have actual real exhaust tips. Let's check out the interior. Okay, so what do we really like about this cabin? I think there's quite a bit to like in here.
Yeah, it's very airy, it's very bright, and I like the sense that it's really clean and crisp, and the fact that there aren't any buttons gives it a really modern, simple kind of design.
And I really like this display in front of the driver. It's very clean, it's easy to read, it's very configurable. That's probably my favorite part of this cabin.
Yeah, and I do like this center piece that bisects the car with this sort of hexagon pattern, but then there's a couple of things that I don't like in terms of the materials. It's a little bit hard up here.
Yeah.
The doors, a little bit of hard plastic right there.
Yep, but there's a decent amount of space for your phone here, a kind of a weird space for your phone here, I guess. Tiny cup holder and a really small center console.
There's a ton of space in the actual doors themselves. I really like that.
What do you think about these seats?
You know, just sitting here, they're okay, but there's really not that much bolstering. I think they're kind of flat. I mean, they're going to fit a wide range of body types, so that's kind of nice. But I feel like a lot of people are buying this because it's a sports car, and they're going to expect a little bit more lateral support.
And I really miss the plaid. I don't think I could buy a GTI and not have plaid seats, so I probably wouldn't get the leather, although they do look nice with the contrast stitching.
So we don't have a lot of buttons for the climate control, and you've been driving this a little bit more than I have. When you're driving, how easy is this to use?
It's not awful, but it's not my favorite. I would definitely prefer just to have knobs and switches, actual physical buttons. You know, you have to press this climate button to get into the climate control system, and if it's not on, these things don't work. Get it on, and it's fine. It's pretty easy to understand how it's going to work, but you do have to spend a lot of time with your eyes off the road to use it. You can't just do it by feel, which is kind of a bummer to me.
Right, and I do like the fact that they didn't do the iPad on the dash type style. They did integrate a little bit, but the screen is also not as big as some of the competitors right now.
Yeah, if it was a little bit bigger, it might actually work better. That way you can display a few more things. But yeah, in general, the overall vibe is clean, it's nice, it's easy to see out of, it's comfortable, but there's a few kind of little issues right here.
Let's check out the back.
Okay.
You're 6'3"?
6'3".
How's that working out for you?
It's okay. I feel like it's a little bit tight. I could probably move my seat up in the front to help out a little bit, but decent amount of headroom. It's not bad.
Headroom's pretty good. Not much leg room though, but
this is cool. There's actually heated seats back here. That's pretty nice.
This is kind of nice. We got like a little cup holder thing here, and whoa.
Cup holder and I guess a pass-through. I didn't even know that was there.
So we could go skiing.
Yes, nice.
But I don't think anybody's buying this because they want a ton of space in the back. This is
No.
still a sports car with a back seat.
Sure, and you can fit a baby seat back here. I had my daughter back here and she fit here just fine.
So how big is the trunk?
Well, I could probably stuff my kid back here. I don't know if that would give me the Parent of the Year award, but she would fit.
Yeah, but you're not gonna go like on a long road trip with 3 huge bags. But again, you're probably not expecting that with a hatchback.
No, it's acceptable.
Yeah, and after all, there's really not many hatchbacks on the market anymore, so this is still kind of awesome.
Yes. So I guess I'll start off this driving portion with just being thankful that we still get the GTI here in the States. Volkswagen discontinued the Golf here. You can still get a Golf R, but not the base Golf. So if you want a small vehicle from Volkswagen, this is really one of your only choices. Fewer and fewer people are buying small vehicles. Everybody's moving over to crossovers. So I wouldn't be surprised at some point if Volkswagen didn't just discontinue this and offer a Taos GTI or a Tiguan GTI, which I wouldn't be too thrilled about, but I don't know, it seems like that's where we're headed. So I think we should all be thankful that Volkswagen still makes and sells this. I'm also thankful that you can still get a manual transmission in a GTI. It seems like those are becoming a thing of the past as well. But I actually opted for the 7-speed DSG, the dual clutch transmission. Wanted to see what it was like on a Canyon road, and because a lot of people will opt for that because it's easier around town. So I'm on one of my favorite Canyon roads, and I've had this car for a few days, but my initial impressions were that I didn't really like driving it on this road, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And then I quickly learned that I didn't like it initially because these seats are just so wide. I'm constantly like bouncing around in them, and as you can see, I'm a very narrow person. So yeah, they don't really hug you in very tightly, and I kept finding myself like trying to brace my body against parts of the car to keep from like falling out of it. But once I got used to that, once I got used to how it feels, I started to like it a whole lot better. So yeah, if you have a very narrow frame like I do, you're gonna probably slide around a little bit. I'm also wondering if maybe because these are leather, they're a little bit more slippery. Maybe those plaid cloth seats hold you in a little bit better. So with that out of the way, getting used to this seat, driving this car is really quite incredible. It is very quick, it handles great. There's very little understeer. Yeah, you can get a tiny bit of understeer in really tight turns. There's no discernible turbo lag. There's not really any torque steer. Now this Mk8 has loads of power, pretty much more than enough. Actually has a better horsepower to weight ratio than the outgoing model. 0 to 60 in this dual clutch version happens in about 5.5 seconds. If you got the manual, it takes about a half second more. And this DSG is awesome, like you would expect from Volkswagen. The shifts are quick. Now, even though all of that power is going to the front wheels, we've got an electronic limited slip diff, which keeps things in order. It helps eliminate wheel spin, so you can get through some of these really tight turns a lot more quickly. And this Autobahn trim has adaptive dampers, which pretty much eliminates body roll. It's kind of incredible. And actually, that's one thing that I don't like about this steering wheel is that you constantly... No, I don't want to talk to you right now, lady. You constantly hit the heated steering wheel button when you're on a canyon road if you're trying to drive somewhat quickly. Yeah, so prepare for your hands to get warm and sweaty. And then as you can see, it's also not that difficult to hit like this push to talk button up here. So that's happened a few times. You can also accidentally turn your stereo up and down. So yeah, the steering wheel looks great, feels great. The heat on it works really well, maybe a little bit too well. Now, when I was first driving this, when I was still trying to work out the seat, the steering felt a little darty, but I think that was more to do with me trying to hold myself in the car. I think maybe a better way to describe it would be eager. It's not quite as good as the steering in the Civic Si, which I love the steering in that car. It's really, really good. But this is pretty good too. Yeah, I like this car. GTIs are always good, but I think this is the best one. Well, at least when it comes to handling and power. Now this Mk8 is perfectly at home on a road like this. but you probably really want to know, what is it like to live with every day when you're commuting to work? Drop it into comfort mode. It's quiet, it's comfortable, it really soaks up the bumps. The stereo is awesome. And as much as I complain about these seats on a road like this, they're actually quite nice around town. EPA rates this at 25 city and 34 miles per gallon highway and 28 combined. I'm averaging 18.6 miles per gallon. Not great, but as you know, as you've seen on other videos, I tend to drive like an idiot, and that kind of reduces your fuel efficiency. So don't drive like me and you can probably do pretty well. This GTI starts at just over $30,000, which given car prices today is pretty affordable. This Autobahn starts at just under $39K. With this King's red paint, it comes in at over 40 grand. Yeah, that's getting up there, but even so, it's still about 5 grand less than a Golf R. The Civic Si is ever so slightly cheaper. It's got less power, but I think it has better steering. It's got way better HVAC controls. It doesn't have adaptive dampers. It's not quite as refined, but it's still loads of fun. So you might also be considering the Veloster N. The price is similar, it's got similar performance. The GTI is more practical, the Veloster is more raw and also has way better HVAC controls, but is overall far less refined. The GTI has always been about that blend of fun and daily driving usability and practicality. And this Mark 8 is really no different. Just don't try to change the fan speed and you'll be fine. The infotainment system, it's not my favorite. For some people, I could even see it being a deal breaker for this car. I don't know though, this car is just so much fun. If you can live with those kind of small design flaws, I think you'd probably be super, super happy with this car. So what do we think? Is this Mark 8 GTI the worst GTI ever built? Or is it the best? Yes, on a canyon road, this thing is fantastic. And around town, it's comfy, it's roomy, it's practical, it's unpretentious, and it looks awesome. From a driving perspective, this is clearly the best GTI ever built. But on the inside, the lack of physical buttons is super annoying. From a daily usability perspective, the Mark 7 cabin is probably better. But if you spend a lot of time pushing your car hard on a canyon road or at the racetrack, the capabilities of this new GTI might be just enough to forgive that. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon so you can get notified of all my new car reviews, used car reviews, and updates on my fleet of mostly broken 80s and 90s cars. If you'd like to help support the show, please consider buying a Hello Road t-shirt at helloroad.tv/shop. You can also show your support by becoming a patron at patreon.com/HelloRoad. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.